Good morning, Doug.
Hello.
Well, the disclaimer just says that something could go wrong.
That's what a disclaimer is. That's
Yeah.
right. It's something could go wrong and it's also not our fault. I think that's what a disclaimer says.
Man, uh, I've grown to kind of not appreciate disclaimers. I don't know. What's your observation of disclaimers?
I don't know that I've ever really read a disclaimer. Have you read a disclaimer?
Well, in my lifetime, everything's become worrisome. Like, so there's more disclaimers, like the disclaimers have almost become books, right? Like that you could really screw everything up. So yeah, I think they're a disservice to humanity, actually.
An instruction manual could be a profitable use of time,
Yeah.
but a disclaimer,
Like I get stuff in the mail from some investments that are pages and pages of telling me what's going to go wrong. And I've had a few clients who've read those things over the years and they ask me questions and I look like a deer in the headlights, but I think they're written to protect somebody against the consumer is why they're written. That's kind of harsh, isn't it? Man, that's a harsh way to start a show. What do you the idea
I was just reading ours.
you didn't get it done because I closed
So maybe I have read a disclaimer.
I read that one because I had to do it. So I've worked on it. So
yeah, I was gonna say I think I typed some of that out.
so we were having a debate, discussion, disagreement, something this week. I don't know what you would call it. And we were both confident individually, I think that we were right at some level. Maybe not 100% confident, but maybe if I'd say I was 60% confident I was right, but I was discussing with an attitude of 100%.
Yeah, I was confident in our discussion and also confident and willing to be wrong.
Right. And where I was wrong for sure is I was discussing as though I was 100% certain, but I was only 50 or 60%. So that attitude was really a mistake on my part.
And where I was wrong was I was just wrong.
And that's why we're going to talk about this today.
And Amanda and I were discussing something where she's clearly wrong. No, I think she's actually right because we were discussing whether Luke Combs was any good or not. And my son Spencer, who's in on stuff, he agreed that Luke Combs is right on. And so I'm again wrong in my music taste.
I can't even.
It's good to be able to admit that you're wrong.
It is.
It's nice.
I think in order for mistakes to be useful, you have to just realize that you're going to do them.
You wouldn't have an opinion if you were afraid of being wrong.
True. And if you didn't make mistakes, you wouldn't know humility, I don't think.
Just wouldn't live in reality.
Right. You know what I think, though? I think people are afraid of mistakes. What do you think?
Yeah, so if I go back in time and think about it, I was a trumpet player. And when you're reading music, a lot of times you make a mistake. You might not play a wrong note, but you might play the note incorrectly. And so your level of mistakes has different consequences to it.
Well, and like a mistake being an athlete is not what you do on the field in or on the court, but like the mistake is to think you wouldn't make a mistake. And so what that does, it gets in your head. Like as a high school basketball player, if I missed a shot, it would get in my head that I missed a shot. But that thought was the mistake because the very best basketball players don't even shoot 50%. So if you're a high school basketball player and you're shooting, I don't know, 25, 30%, you may be amongst the best basketball players in high school. But then all of those mistakes compound on each other, because then you start playing the game, looking at the bench, worrying
So
about
then
making
the
a
idea
mistake.
is, I'm not gonna make that mistake again.
Right,
You know, we've been taught that, you know, don't touch the stove twice or whatever.
Right.
Learn from other people's mistakes, and mistakes will probably be made again. Results could look poorly off a good decision.
right. Or a bad decision could be a mistake and be rewarded for good results, which is really a worse, like going to Las Vegas is a mistake. We've said this over and over again, but if you go to Las Vegas and you win a bunch of money the first time, it could be the biggest mistake of your life. You could lose a lot of money by winning the first time you go to Las Vegas.
Thinking you've got what it takes.
That you're better than Las Vegas. There's just tons of high rises that would tell you you're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the part of why I wanted to talk about mistakes is first of all, I think if you're not already a Gimbal client and you're trying to figure out who the financial advisor is I would hire, I think a good interview question is, tell me about some of your mistakes you've learned from.
Yeah, Keith and I were talking about mistakes just the other day. We were taking a look at a position that we had purchased, and I'd shown Keith my track record. I keep score of every trade I make personally, and the last 7 or 8 just really haven't been that good. The results haven't been that good. They were great trades, but the results haven't been that good. And so by keeping track of your decisions, you could even decide, all right, am I performing well to take a risk, or should I dial it back a little bit on my decisions? Just having a scorecard or knowing where you've been, having some data can help you make some decisions on whether you want to potentially make a mistake or not.
Boy, I think this topic, for me, it goes down to like the core of my soul. Like, I think school is the first place I learned that if you get a red X on a paper, that you made a mistake, right? And then that got stuck in my brain, my psyche. And so red was always the color of a mistake. I don't know about you. Like, if you're going to put a color of a mistake,
Yeah.
a big red X would be the color.
Yeah.
In our industry, if we're talking about, and kind of what we're saying is even
Stop signs are red. I mean,
yeah, and if you look at your account value online, it's going to be red,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
red is the color of a mistake. And frankly, if we do the very best, if we were the best investors possible, we would be right 50% of the time.
that'd be really high.
And so imagine you're used to not getting a lot of red X's on your papers because you were a 90% student. You'd only get 1 out of 10. And imagine your brain trying to wrap itself around the idea, I'm going to be wrong more than half the time. Like, that's self-esteem. That's learning to accept things that are out of your control. There's all kinds of things in that. But the idea of a mistake is a lot of times you don't even know what a mistake might be. Like, you may think something's a mistake, but it may have taught you a lesson that may save your life later, right? Like,
One of the things my dad taught me about that was really helpful in school was he would say something like, hey, Doug, do you know what they call the guy who got the lowest GPA in med school? You know,
yeah,
doctor.
yeah,
And so just to be able to think longer and give yourself some grace.
yeah, and that's really hard in our culture. I think our culture today is a little more critical than cultures years ago. But to have the confidence to be willing to make a mistake, I think, is a really big deal. Like, it probably took me a decade as a financial advisor to realize that the decisions I help clients make are going to be wrong and they're going to lose money. Like, you're going to lose money, I'm going to lose money. That's a hard idea for a financial advisor to accept. And I think once you accept that, you can become a world-class financial advisor. But before that, I don't think you can do it.
Once you accept that, you can also be very objective. Like, when I've reviewed somebody else's portfolio who's with maybe a competitor, I can say, hey, I think they did a reasonable job for you. Like I could say, yeah, I understand that one went down, but during that time, that was a reasonable investment.
Right, and I think helping people accept mistakes or think sometimes a mistake, sometimes something going opposite of what you hoped wasn't even a mistake. Like
Right.
if you had planned out a situation and put things along the way to protect yourself against that situation, it really wasn't a mistake. So like what immediately comes to my mind is a constant picture I have of me standing on the Alaskan Canadian highway behind my RV, with the RV stuck on the road because we had a blowout. It would seem like that was a mistake because we're stuck on the road, right? But the goal was to drive that RV on the Alaskan highway, and it didn't go as we planned. So we could just turn around and go back, or we could say, you know what? We planned that something like this might happen, and that's why we had a budget for that. And so we were able to move forward in that situation. And I think like one of the unique things we try to do for you is to realize that a investment may look like a mistake, but we've planned in advance in case it goes against what we were hoping it would do.
Yeah, and we're thankful to have teachers who've guided us along the way, and they've made plenty of mistakes themselves and have given us permission to make mistakes.
And it is, I think, one of the greatest things to help your family members accept that mistakes are some of life's greatest teachers. It's as a son of a teacher, it was hard for my mom to grasp that mistakes actually may be as good of a teacher as her telling me to do something. And so to realize you can learn something from either side of a coin, you can learn from the positive or the negative, is a big deal to living life more fulfilled. I think is that there's a lot of great opportunities that you can learn from in life. Yeah.
There's a force out there wanting you to make mistakes. And it's coming after our kids, and we talk about it at our house all the time. There's just nothing that you could not bounce back from.
That I had a friend reaching out to me yesterday, and he was, you know, maybe going to make a really bad mistake, and came and asked me about it before he did it. And so when you hit that Y in the road of, you know, making a really bad decision or something that might be more productive, even seeking counsel sometimes is a way to minimize the damage of a mistake.
I would say that qualifier, if you're going to seek counsel, because there's plenty of people out there who you don't want to seek counsel from, that the qualifier is this person listening to me? They might be giving me feedback I don't appreciate at the time, but are they listening to what I'm putting out there?
That is a
Because if they're not listening and they're giving you feedback, they could be pouring gas on the mistake.
That's
Or they could be telling you it's a mistake and it's not a mistake.
right, right. So probably getting wisdom involved is critical in that counsel thing, and even understanding what that is can be a little bit challenging from time to time. Like if you go to somebody for advice and their advice is consistently wrong, then you go, probably don't need to go to that person again, right? Yeah, that mistake helped weed out who's good counsel, right? So that's really interesting. Tell me what you think, like how your career has unfolded in the idea of making mistakes. So like when you joined Gimbal, were you comfortable making mistakes?
No, and I don't know that I am even comfortable making them today. I'm getting better. I'm honest that they will happen, but I have an initial reaction every time I make a mistake or every time something doesn't go the way that I saw it going. I mean, I still have a little bit of a setback.
Yeah. And that really hit me hard early in my career because nobody ever talked about this. As I started as a stockbroker, nobody told me when you are wrong in a situation, you have to psychologically make your way through it to look people in the eyes and tell them this is what happened, because honesty comes at that core level of saying, I screwed this up, or this wasn't the right decision. We should have not done this. So we need to make this decision to get out of that situation. And really mistakes are part of decision making. And why I even think this is such an important conversation is I discovered many years ago, it's really hard for most people to make decisions. But when you make a mistake with a decision, the way to correct it is to make another decision. So if decisions create anxiety, the best way that people avoid that is to not make a decision, but it creates its own anxiety. But if you get better at making decisions and realize I turned right here and I should have turned left, then I have to take two lefts to get back in the right direction. I have to turn from where I was going and go back. And so learning to accept mistakes are part of decision making, I think, is a critical part of being a better decision maker.
And if you're where you're supposed to be, I think just developing a worldview or a thought process that says, hey, I know that I'm not going to bat 1,000. I know that I'm going to miss a few of these or a lot of these, but I'm still making good decisions. And I just think that's the way winners think.
I was gifted with children who do well academically, which that doesn't mean you're a good decision maker. But in our house, of 7 of us in the house, I had the consistent lowest GPA of any of them, grade point average. And so to defend my position on that, over the years, I don't know how many times they heard me say that C students rule the world. And what I was trying to tell them is C students do much better with imperfection than A students because they're used to imperfection. They're used to things not going their way. And so they've learned through the school of hard knocks what it's like. And A students can learn it, but if you cling to perfection, it makes it harder and harder to be a good decision maker, I believe. And that's I think being a good decision maker is a learned skill, I think. And so mistakes help you be a better decision maker. And so like I think what I'm getting to today is that you said something yesterday about like how would somebody know that their investment advisor is not a scam? And that kind of answers part of the question, right? And you said they don't always make you money, right? Like your statement will be down is probably a good indicator that it's not a foolproof indicator, but if somebody's actually making decisions for you, they're going to lose money.
Yeah, trustworthiness is number one in this profession and a lot of others. And so just being able to honestly look at your statement and say, their performance is down, probably tells you that you can trust them.
Well, we encourage you guys to make decisions, and not just for the pure effort of making mistakes, but you can learn from your mistakes and be better at whatever task you're looking at. Doug and I study the mistakes we make in the investment and financial planning things, and we rethink those and say, okay, how can we do that better for our clients the next time? Not just on the investment side, but even financial planning tools. We look at those things, think through those, and try to constantly improve our thoughts on those situations.
Challenge I'd just ask you to consider is just take a look at your next few decisions and look at the one that went wrong, but ask yourself, did I make the right decision? Even though the results went the other way.
Absolutely.
That's a pretty freeing thing when you get there.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It makes me think about even athletics is that if you're learning the proper method to do something in athletics, you may not get the right result right away, but over time, doing the right process will probably more often than not get you the proper result. Well, that's all I have on this topic. I would suggest that this weekend, the idea of this weekend that mistakes will be made, and the celebration of Easter says that there's a solution for your ultimate mistakes. And I just smile thinking about the Easter weekend.
Have a good Friday.
I'll see you guys soon.